Morning. I was expecting a smaller crowd being the first person of the day, but it's really great to see you. First, thank you for not partying too hard and coming in today. I've got more than 30 slides and 30 minutes, so I'm going to be going fast. But before I get started, I need your help. All of you work in product, so I'm going to try something to wake us all up. How many of you do a daily stand-up in your office? All right, good number. How many of you end your daily stand-up with a clap? Not many. All right, this is going to be interesting. Let's try it. It's simple. I go 3, 2, 1, and you clap. Now, before you do that, I want you to imagine something. Look around you and imagine that you, just you, did not party last night. Everyone else here has partied really hard and needs to be woken up, all right? So they depend on you. Shall we try it? 3, 2, 1, go. Just one. I should have mentioned it's one clap, but that's good. We're awake. So let's start. What is my talk about? It sounds a little dry when you say rituals and OKRs and automation. It's pretty simple. So in today's talk, I'm going to be talking about how you could use automation and rituals to power growth. And by growth, I mean outcomes that you or your company want to achieve. What is automation first? Let me just define that. As soon as I say the word automation, all of us have this association of automation to machines. And that's because the past century, automation has been mechanization, taking that and making it like a robotics. But that's not what, in our world of product building and consumer psychology, products, it's all about. Automation here in consumer psychology is about making better decisions. So imagine you were a person who had to make decisions and you had a process through which you could make smarter decisions because your cranial capacities now can be used for other things. That's what automation really is. It's allowing you to make the decisions that help you smarter and faster. The second bit, rituals. This is literally what you need to do to get your outcomes, the execution pathways that you think about day in, day out. So I'm going to be covering two parts to this, but the order in which I'm going is the opposite way. So I always tell my teams this. You can't get a person to go to any destination until you tell them the outcome, because if you don't tell them the outcome and they don't want to go there, they're not going to come with you. So I'm going to start this presentation the opposite way. I'm going to actually try to talk to you about Stash, what Stash wants to do as an outcome. Then I'm going to dial it back to simply the pathway of execution that we have chosen and the rituals that we follow along the way. All right? That's simple. So let me start, but before I start, I want to tell you guys, anyone who builds product is talking about a field of behavior that's almost 100 years old. And I don't say this trivially. It's not because you are not innovating today, but literally the field of innovation that has happened that supports product is behaviorism. And that is almost 100 years old. So when I was in school, in college, I used to snicker at Skinner and his pigeons or Pavlov and his dog. Behaviorism is a very old field, but a lot of us are simply digitizing experiences that have been well studied. And what that means is all of you have access to a wealth of knowledge that already exists that you can take into your products today. So I believe behaviorism is where it comes. So my talk, how does this work in my own life? I thought I'll take an example. This is me. That's my family, 2 girls. I had a crisis in December. Now, before I get to the crisis, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a person who hates gyms. I don't like going to the gyms. I've gone on and off to many of them, and when you go to a gym, the things I hate about it are lots of them. But you remember this gleaming array of big machines, white and black. I literally paralyzed myself. I do not know what to do. There's a machine for almost every muscle in my body. And what I end up doing is I end up going to the one machine that I really know well, which is the treadmill. And I start running. And I don't really even run there. What I do is I run, and I look across, and I see this person running on the machine next to me. I check their little speed, and then I go a little faster than them, and I try to keep it up. This is why I have never been able to stay with gyms. Now, the crisis. In December, my daughters looked at me and they looked at my tummy and they said, "Dad, you are a Jello fellow." This struck me so hard. My favorite dessert, Jello, being combined with my personality. And I said, this is a wake-up call. What am I going to do? So I did something. So I got myself, like all good product people, an app. It's called 7M. And what it did was literally, it allows me not to have to think about the exercise. I can like and dislike the exercise I want. It started me sneakily saying I could do only 7 minutes, and it got me to 21 minutes. And I have a routine. Every day morning at 6:30, I wake up and I do it. Outcome was simple. I lost 15 pounds. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I could lose another 15, but that's another story. Let's start this with Stash now. Stash. Stash was started from a need in the industry. There are about 100 million Americans who do not have full access to financial services. But that I don't mean that they don't have a bank account. I mean they're not treated as first-class citizens. It's not that they do not have good financial habits. They have a great credit score. They have a lot of wealth combined in aggregate. And they make a lot of spending happen. These 100 million people spend billions of dollars on financial products. Everything from investing, cards, savings. There's a lot of money that they do spend collectively. But the industry does not treat them well. These consumers hate their legacy banks. I remember the last time I walked into a bank, and literally banks are going the way of Amazon. It's like I think about it, I walked in, there were more people behind the desk than there were in the line. And I said, why would they run this facility? So these people do not like their banks. And there's a reason for this, because singularly, as a single person, they do not rise to the level where they grab the attention of banks. Banks tend to look for people who are wealthier. In Stash, the average demographic is about 50,000 family income. That's not a place at which you get a $350 deposit for just signing up with the bank. They pay a ton of fees, $35 billion. And they literally are not knowledgeable of financial services. All of this together comes down to what Stash wants to do. So Stash wants to be the financial home for the American middle class. We have about 4 million people on our platform today, and we know our target is of 100 million. Get that working, we want to have 3 types of solutions. We have banking solutions, investing solutions, and insurance. Now, if you think of Stash, if you think about people who are in their life cycle, we want to get everyone to investing, but banking is the pathway to that. That's all great. So you got it, financial home for the middle class. This is the point at which you ask me a question, what does that mean? Now, yesterday, Cindy from MasterCard spoke about a vision, and visions are great. I love them. They make you aspire. They make you dream. So Stash's vision of being a financial home for the middle class truly, truly resonates with me. I want to make that happen. But that doesn't help me become a good product leader. A good product leader, I need to get to the next step. So think about great aspirational brands you have. So a great example is Nike. They spend billions of dollars with their just do it, whoosh. What does that mean? Now, if I were Elon Musk, just do it might mean I think about how do I get I'm an astronaut, and how do I get a red Tesla auto drive to me on the surface of Mars? If you are me, just do it might mean, do I pick oatmeal or do I pick toast this morning? That's the range of aspiration. But here, the first solution to taking from aspirational vision to execution is having a very concrete strategy. The financial industry, the word product means something very different from what most of you are used to. It means financial products, which means a debit account, a credit card, a mortgage. These are distinct financial products, and that ecosystem gets tightened because you have a regulatory environment around that particular product. So when you talk product in finance, you typically are talking a specific financial product. This creates chaos for product builders because Stash itself as it evolved, became an app of apps because we were talking about an app of products, of financial products. How do you get it back to becoming truly a product? And that's to think about the user, the consumer. How do you define a consumer's need singularly that spans all the financial products, all the features that you have? So focusing on the strategy, first thing, think of consumer need. That need should spread across your ecosystem, everything that you do, literally. For some of you, you may have smaller problem needs, and that allows you to be well-defined. For some of you who have to spread, you will have to be able to distill this down. The second, you think about building world-class solutions against those needs. And third, the business value pops out. So in Stash's case, it's very simple. All of you have the same need. We all work from paycheck to paycheck. We manage our spend from that paycheck. Anything that's left over, we tend to put it away for the future, and then we want to protect our money from risk. That's it. That's the need. That spans your entire ecosystem of managing money. So the world financial home, in terms of a customer need, simply means that. The second thing, so if you think about this need, and how do Americans actually stack up against this, you see that they don't do very well. A lot of them in each one of these needs, and forget multiple of them, they're not doing well on even one of them. That clearly creates opportunity. So when you have opportunity, the next step, so I mentioned needs, solutions. In Stash's case, we think about solutions in terms of three things: tools, guidance, and automation. And it need not be the exact feature you build, but you need a framework. So we build tools to help you get started. We give you guidance on why you should be using these tools and what tools should be using, and we give you automation. So I'm going to refer to automation a little later. That stands out for us from features that you use. It's a core part of the platform. I talked to having each one of these, so basic tools, guidance, automation. Marrying these two gets you a framework. You think about generation of money, interaction with money, and then you protect your money. And on the right, you have the dimensions of tools, guidance, and automation. Everything we do is marked into this. This framework allows us, alongside research, to then go into prioritization. What should we be doing next? So if you're building an ecosystem, you need to think of what you're building tomorrow, 6 months from now, and 3 years from now. And this framework allows us to, more importantly, to not do the things we should not be doing right now. In fact, we may never do it at all. So that's the second part. So you actually be able to map your products. The third part is very simple. You get these two right, you get the needs right, you get good solutions, you get business outcomes. And this is average revenue per user. That's an outcome we all go for. A lot of you are in this industry to commercialize it. So I talked about having a product strategy. Let's talk about execution. So the most granular unit at Stash is squads. I'm sure you heard the name. We are not fully agile. We don't do everything agile, but these are full stack squads with designers, researchers, back-end, front-end, and product marketers and product managers. The thing about squads is you need to think a little more about how they start running, because if you think about a team, a guerrilla team, they need to run. How do you get them to run? Where do they run to? So the first thing to think about is your squad design, right? What is the core of your squad? Second bit I'll be covering is something called the guardrails, so to speak, for your squads. And if they were to run fast, so that they don't go off center and they stay aligned. And third bit is what are the rituals these squads actually need on a day-to-day basis for execution. So I'm sure some of you have seen this picture. It's a famous one, older one, younger one. Squads are like that. So one version of squads is I think about stashers. I meet them for the first time. I impress on them what value Stash brings to them. I get them working on the platform, and then I retain them over time. This version of life, of how you look at it, is the lifecycle view of life. The second version of life is a particular stasher may be purchasing a stock on a particular day. Perhaps they may be swiping their bank card on a particular day. In that singular experience, they need to have end-to-end satisfaction. So the concept of service design becomes important. And when you think of squads, you cannot have one or the other. You must have both. You need to be able to think of people in aggregate because they are a human being, and you need to be able to think of experiences in isolation. So we have two kinds of squads. The second, product building is about storytelling. The best definition I've ever heard, at least I personally feel, about product building is you're a storyteller. And a storyteller is only as good as the tactics and techniques you use to tell the story. Your design system is an integral part of this. Because imagine you were listening to a speaker who had a terrible voice and had terrible body language, you would not have the attention. The same is true of product building. Design systems give you consistency, they give you predictability, they decrease decision making. So we revamped, these were screens before we actually had a design system as we had evolved, and we just put together screens one at a time. That happens in startups too. We mapped out a new design system and went with the values that are important to Stash. And they are here: empowered, motivated, calm, guided, safe, relevant. These were the core principles of our new design system. We then tested this design system with the customers, ranked it, and you see the scores. By the way, that's purple. If you ever see the Stash brand, you'll notice the purple color is very strong. And this is important. As product teams, we always build stuff, and a lot of our teams will be very happy with an A/B test. Connor from Duolingo yesterday talked about how A/B tests need to be guided to. You need a good hypothesis. And what I want to call out here is that a lot of the A/B testing tools that you use off the shelf tend to be very short-sighted because they typically look for optimization of a very short-term step, maybe a funnel, maybe the next step of the funnel, maybe a screen downstream. The truth about A/B tests is there are huge opportunity costs for a test that you do. You need to have an aggregate view of what actually happened in the ecosystem. So at Stash, we built out a complete tool called Wisdom to tell us what exactly happens from your test. And that required us to build data science, lifecycle value, lifetime value monitors. And every test, you can give the key metrics you are trying to move, but you can also watch almost 30 to 40 other metrics that are changing the ecosystem. This allows us to not make short-term decisions alone, so not just move one metric and have an opportunity cost in the other part of the system. So squads use this tool. The third bit squads need in any organization is transparency. All of you are in a product team, which means literally the rest of the organization constantly comes up to you and asks you, are you doing the right thing? And that's why this is so important. At Stash, we follow quite a few rituals, some of them very granular, like daily stand-ups. Some of them go heavy, so we have on-demand design studios. They do research, they do low-fidelity prototyping, we have iterative prototyping, that was an evolution. We initially did only prototyping in field, but we started doing low fidelity, then high fidelity, and then going to field. It just saves you tech costs. Tech is a very expensive resource. We have quarterly OKRs. For those of you who are not familiar with the OKR process, it's just an aspirational objective and a key result that you want to get to. You typically get 3 of them for a squad, and then you monitor them. That's more important. The difference between SMART goals and OKRs, the OKR is supposed to be a continuous process. You're supposed to watch it. So we have quarterly OKR sittings, and then we have monthly OKR reviews. Squads do all this, the teams that actually organically do this. Yesterday there was a talk about autonomous teams. It is very important for teams to buy into the direction they headed, and for them to transparently push out information so that the rest of the company is comfortable in that direction. And we have weekly product reviews. These are demos. We love these. They create this constant check of quality of what goes out to field is acceptable at the Stash level. Now I want to talk about one specific thing called automatic. I referred to it, and not being robo. I hate the term robo-advisor. It's just a terrible name because you think about it, no one wants to be a robot. Everyone wants to be in control. So I'm going to talk about the principles of what automatic means. We have a specific squad called Auto Stash at Stash to create that elevation of automatic being beyond just features. First thing about automatic is to be able to give control. It almost sounds opposite. How is automatic giving control? But I'll talk to that. The second is giving choice for whatever they're doing. And I'll talk about Stockback, which is our latest feature of automatic. Talking about control and automatic, avoid dark patterns. When people want to know that they've actually made a decision to go automatic. This was a flow in which people turned on something automatically, they did not realize it. So it's a dark pattern. When this happens and you actually go automatic, it might feel like you moved a KPI, but it creates a very unpleasant user experience. Because when they realize it, they're like, you tricked me. This is literally sometimes the words they use. So avoid dark patterns in automatic. When people are choosing to make a decision that helps them for a longer term, they need to know. Second, you give them control on what they want. So there's actually a stasher in the audience I was talking to yesterday over dinner, and she was telling me about how she auto-stashes, and she turned off auto-stashing for a month because she had some changes in her life, and she never went back to it. So our research indicated the exact same problem. It's not that people want to stop it, they want to pause it. They just have something going on and they want to come back to it. So you need to give people control on how automatic actually works for them. Third is choice. So some of our auto stashers put money into cash. They just put away money as cash. They need liquid money at the end. Some of them put it into investments. Some of them have flexible work. Some of them have regular paychecks, which really means we have different products for these people. So some people can actually put away money every Friday. Some people, we have algorithms which determine whether you have spare cash. And some people just like to save in proportion to spend. So these belong to a class of rules called IFTTT, if this, then that, something like that. But we have a smaller set, which is based on user research. Now, the most important thing, when you're getting people to do automatic, you need to definitely give them insight into how it works, how the machine works. But the more important bit is they need to have buy-in into the outcome that's going to happen at the end of automatic. An example here is what happens if you put aside $20 a week. Sure, we'll send you emails, we'll help you notifications, we'll tell you to tracker, but the outcome of automatic is literally what drives people into action. So as I mentioned, automatic is smarter decision making to achieve some objective. So you start with that. So if you're trying to get people to do automatic, you start with the objectives. And at Stash, we're really proud of this. So we had a whole bunch of people starting with us, investing. But then there were a lot of people not ready to invest. We asked them why. And we were surprised. A lot of people did not even have the concept of a stock. There's sometimes joked about us, Main Street doesn't care about Wall Street. So the smaller towns in the US, they all have a Main Street and they don't care about Wall Street. The amount of financial guidance that's needed to get this demographic to move up is challenging. So we decided to think about this differently. We said, all right, you do not know about investing? Are you sure? Let us show you that you were always an investor. And the way we did that, we said, all right, we have a card, a debit card, and if you were to use this card at any venue, let's say you were to buy something on Amazon, you would get Amazon stock from Stash. If you were to use it to stream a video from Netflix, you get Netflix stock. If you were to use this to buy a donut at Dunkin', which is a popular chain in the US, you would get Dunkin' stock and you would get Dunkin' Donuts, which I like. So by using the rails people naturally have, people have association with brands, and using that association to move them slightly and say, these brands that you love are actually companies and you have stocks. And it doesn't matter if you have 100 shares or you have 1 share or a fractional share. The knowledge you gain and the gateway that opens for you is literally the same. So StockBack is our product. It's unique. It's our debit card. You swipe it, you get stock wherever you swipe. This is great. I have 5 minutes, and I want to talk of what did this all do. So as the expression goes, the proof is always in the pudding. Stash revamped its app. This summer, we launched a completely user-centric app. In our new design system, you see the purple. And if you look carefully, you'll see an S at the back. I've been told that's not an S, it's a journey, but that's okay. We got 60% of our stashes to put away money automatically. Now, why is that not 90? Perhaps we didn't give enough control. Perhaps we didn't give enough choice. We haven't understood the universe. But 60% of our stashers have made smarter decisions. They are not as affected by stock market volatility because you have this whole concept of dollar cost averaging, and this helps you get there. We've given over 3.5 million stock rewards through our debit card. That's 3.5 million opportunities for people who do not know about stocks to learn about stocks. To stop for a minute and reflect, what is stocks? What are you talking about? What can I do once I learn the basic concepts of it? And the thing I'm most proud about is we have a self-organized community. Now, if you follow the financial industry, you're regulated. You're not allowed to create communities. We have a few of them. The largest of them has more than 70,000 people. It's on Facebook. It is self-organized. And the beauty of this community is that they support each other. These people talk to each other in a language that is so organic that Stash could not recreate. If you go on if you guys know Humans of New York or similar sites, you'll see people talk about everything. They post their financial profile. They talk about their personal lives. They feel sad when they have to stop stashing for a little bit, and they get all the support they need from the community. What do you need to buy before 10 replies? What do I need to do next? Another 10 replies. And the important bit about this is they're funny as they do it. I love the funny bit. They talk about market movements. They protect themselves. As you see, I put up one of them. It says, I love long romantic walks to the bank. I thought it was funny. If I said this to my wife, I'm pretty sure she would not think this is funny. But that's Stash. So in a nutshell, I'm going to recap. When you think about an outcome, whatever the outcome you desire, your company desires, distill it down to having a clear strategy. Once you have that strategy in terms of needs and a framework for solutions, move to the next phase of how do you design execution to be efficient. Once you have both of those, see if you have to elevate anything that in behaviorism that beyond being a basic feature and make it a core part of your platform. That's all I got. Thank you.